But for purposes of introduction, my name is Linda Tela Longole. I am one of the AU NYD representatives for Kenya. What that it's not an organization, it's a program implemented by civil society organizations in 6 Eastern African countries, that is Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. So that program, we have 14 youth representatives that do attend annually every United Nations General Assembly. And we are here mandated under 3 policy sectors, that is the youth, peace and security, youth and employment, and then youth meaningful participation. But this year we choose to focus on youth unemployment based on the realities. As most of you probably have read by now, we have the Youth Dialogue Report, which we were graciously part of contributing to that report, where 40% of young people said economic opportunities is one of the realities that they face because they lack access to those economic opportunities. So that directs our conversation to be like, let's prioritize youth unemployment as of this year's UNGA, but then who knows, maybe those realities will change next year. So I believe that would make you allow why youth unemployment, why not youth, peace and security. So I hope that is very clear. Now, if you do not mind me, and everyone who's joining us online, thank you so much, especially for those of us who are joining from Eastern African communities. I know it's 8 o'clock of your time, but you spending that evening to try and join us in this conversation is equally important. We appreciate you for that. So we are going to skip to a very important part. We have no keynote address. That will be replaced later by interactive session, which is going to be a Mentimeter session. But right now we're going to have a keynote panel of incredible young people and incredible experts in different fields who, if you can tell from my notes, from my tone, I am already excited just trying to mention their names. We have Brian Youssef joining us. Brian is he's a Lebanese medical student. Just to get your bio right, to make sure. No, yes, no more student. He just graduated 2 months ago. Congratulations, Brian. So Brian is a medical doctor, a leading social entrepreneur working at the intersection of health, technology, and education. He's the founder of EduBolt, an edtech platform that has supported over 15,000 students across Lebanon and the MENA region, standing for Middle East and North Africa region, and created 250 youth jobs. He also launched CodeBolt, a coding academy with 25 school partnerships, equipping the next generation with essential digital skills. In the health space, Brian co-developed Matins. It's gonna help us pronounce that well.
It's Matense, so just don't forget in Arabic.
Matense. We all learned an Arabic word today, if anything. A breast cancer detection platform, and Ask Melano, an AI-powered tool for easy early skin cancer screening. He is also a laureate of UNDP Youth Leadership Program and a member of its Youth Advisory Board. Brian was appointed in 2025 as the youngest member of UNICEF Global Leadership Council. He actively contributes to shaping global policy on education, employment, innovation for young people. So thank you so much for joining us, Brian.
Thank you for the introduction.
And then we do have right next to me, Zoya Kalinski. She is a passionate advocate, public speaker, and founder of the United, which also has a capital E in the middle of T and D. So probably she's gonna teach us why that. United Youth Council, a multi-time United Nations speaker. She speaks on education, gender equality, youth empowerment, using her own story to fight for those who are often overlooked. Zoya doesn't wait for permission to lead. She builds a platform that gives her power to youth voices and challenges the idea that change has to come from the top. And for her, advocacy isn't a title, it's a mission. Ladies and gentlemen, Zoya Kalinski. Now, last keynote speaker, last but not least. Say last but not least or least but not last. Yes. Cecilia, who's a representative of the Baha'i International Community UN office in New York, where she focuses on youth, human development, and climate change. She has managed international development projects, including the USAID Global Health Supply Chain Program in Asia and Africa, and has conducted research on migration policy, global governance, and cross-national responses to shared challenges. With experience spanning in project management, public affairs, and communication, Cecilia brings both grassroots and international perspective to her work. Of Iranian, German, and American heritage, that is so rich. A multilingual, she is committed to advancing equity, cross-cultural understanding, and approaches that place human well-being at the center of her policymaking process. Cecilia, thank you so much for doing this. All right, so Zoya, we're going to start with you. You have been amplifying youth, especially young girls, voices in education and empowerment. From your perspective, what must change in the classroom to marketplace journey to ensure that young girls are not left behind? And how can intergenerational collaboration make that change real? All right, so in the interest of just Zoya being the incredible person that she is, she has a statement for us first before she answers the question. Now, I know time already allows us for that. I'll give you 2 minutes to read your incredible statement that you have for us, and then you can answer the question.
Thank you. Have you guys ever noticed that when people talk about future, they often forget who will actually be living it? My name is Zoya Klinsky. I'm 14 years old. I'm a youth advocate and the founder of the United Youth Council. I've spoken at the United Nations, given a TEDx speech, and spoken at global summits, but not because I was handed a seat, but because I refused to accept being told, wait my turn. And now I fight to make sure young people everywhere have a voice in shaping the decisions that affect us. When we speak about from classrooms to marketplace, we are really speaking about the journey every young person must take from learning to working to building a life of dignity and purpose. But today, in too many places, that journey is broken. Right now, young people make up over half of the world's population. In Africa alone, more than 60% of people are under the age of 25. We are not a small group on the sidelines. We are a majority. But here's the problem. While the energy and the ideas of youth are limitless, the opportunities we're given are not. To this day, young people are constantly excluded and pushed to the sidelines of real decision-making. The International Labor Organization reports that youth unemployment globally stands at 13%. That is more than 65 million young people without work. Imagine the potential we are wasting when millions of brilliant, capable young people are left with no pathway to learn, to work, or to lead. And yet, even as we discuss employment, the truth is this is not only a job crisis, it is a decision-making crisis. Policies on education, employment, and leadership are too often written about youth without youth. The people most affected are excluded from the very spaces where solutions for them are being designed. You cannot prepare young people for the future of work if you do not include them in shaping that very future. I know this because this is part of my story. I was told I was too young to be taken seriously. But instead of waiting my turn, I created my turn. I stood on the stage of the United Nations as a 12-year-old girl, speaking about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I founded the United Youth Council to give young people not just a voice, but a seat at the table. And today, I'm here not as someone waiting for the future, but as someone building it right now. And with all of your help, we might actually have a chance to change the world. And I'm not alone. Around the world, young people are leading startups, reimagining education, transforming agriculture, and creating innovation. It is important that frameworks linking education, skills, digital inclusion, agriculture, and entrepreneurship be co-created with young people, not presented to them after the fact, but shaped with their voices and leadership from the beginning. So here's my message for you today. If more than half the world is under 30, then more than half the seats at the table should not be empty. Governments, UN agencies, businesses, and institutions must stop treating youth as the future and start recognizing us as the present. Youth are not the problem to be solved. We are the partners to be trusted. And this time to trust us is not tomorrow, not 2030, not someday, but today. Thank you.
All right, Zoe is telling us we should not wait for our turn, but create our turn. Impressive. Thank you so much, Zoe, for your opening statement. And in this regard, the question was, from your perspective, what must change from that journey from classroom to marketplace to ensure that young girls are not left behind? And also just as a young person at the age of 14, how can intergenerational collaboration make that change real?
Well, I think the most important thing that we have to do is start making sure that institutions, governments are being held accountable for excluding those young people. I think even if one person starts talking about it, starts, creating change, advocating for it, I think obviously as a community and as a movement, we're more powerful, but every person can make a difference. And I think that's the most important thing is even as an individual, the ripple effect is real. One person does this, another person does another thing, and change starts to spread.
All right, the ripple aspect is very real because we are independent as a community and the world is a global village, as we call it outside. All right, and then that brings me up to Brian, the incredible work that you've been doing with EduVault and CodeVault, and just continuing leveraging AI and technology to advance the social sector. In your work with also Generation Limited, you've seen how youth-led ideas can grow into solutions that actually touch and impact thousands of lives. What have you learned about the power and limits of youth-led action? And what does it take for persistence to translate into real impact?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you everyone for being here. For me, before talking about the limits and the cons of our youth-led initiatives, I need to say what's youth-led, because now at the UNGA or at any UN big conference, what I'm able to see is that we are very good, very, very good at admiring the problem, just numerizing it, genderizing it, geo-localizing it, and we are very good at putting the problem on the table, but not good enough to make solutions. And at the end of each conference, we come with a big paper that we call Solutions Made for the Youth, and they call us the future leaders, but we're not future leaders anymore. We're just leaders because each one of us has its own initiative, working on it, leading, growing, thriving in its community. So for me, before looking at youth initiatives, we should look at the main problem because we saw it all over the world. We're able to make impact, we can create, we can change, and that's why they call us leader. But on the other side, we can't do it alone. Yes, we're perseverant, yes, we're resilient, but without the clear partnerships that we need, it won't be able to happen. And that's why what we really need now is mentorship, not micromanagement, funding, not just applause that we are youth and talking at big stages, that's not enough. And finally, policy seats, not just panels. So that's what we want. So for me, as a GenU member, for example, I have seen that working for co-governments and co-designing could be the solution. Because yes, we're still young, we don't have the funding, we don't have the experience also that all the big institutions can bring to the table, but we have the ideas and we have the way to do it because we're on the table, we're on the ground, we're digital native. So most of the policy makers now are not digital natives. They weren't there. We were born with ChatGPT and all the new technologies that is here. So the real change should start when the institution will see us at not so good and not just an image that we can put everywhere that we're working with youth, but more as partners and enabling us into their national strategies, financing mechanism, and of course the KPIs they will put along the way. So in summary, I know I don't have a lot of time. Youth-led initiatives and input will scale when our perseverance and resilience will meet clear partnerships. So we'll be able to grow, thrive, and hopefully co-create and share power with the policymakers now. Thank you.
All right, when resilience meets a clear partnership, we can influence impact. Thank you so much, Brian. That was impressive. And now to Cecilia. Drawing just from your vast global experience from UNDP, working with USAID and NBC from Asia and Africa. Drawing from all that experience, how can we best combine the energy and creativity of young people with the capacity and expertise of civil society organizations and development partners to create youth interventions that are both inclusive and sustainable? How can we combine the two?
Thank you. So first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's a pleasure to participate in this panel. So thank you to my co-panelists and to our organizers of the African UN Youth Delegates Program. I think that the question, how do we co-create youth interventions that are both inclusive and sustainable based on the creativity of young people and the opportunities that are afforded by civil society and development partners? I think that question begins with thinking about what is special about the period of youth. Youth is both like an age range, right? It's a way that young people are perceived in the world, but it is also a period of one's life that has so much potential because young people have an acute sense of justice. They are creative. They have the possibility to be less attached to the status quo. They have that flexibility of mind, and they have the interconnection through social media, through, internet platforms, that they can connect with people from so many different parts of the world and bring a very global perspective to whatever place they're part of. So that perspective, like the ability to connect with others and conversate with others, paired with the potential that young people have in that particular stage of life, means that they can contribute a lot to different society building, community building processes. Now, on the other hand, civil society, development organizations, development partners have a lot to offer in terms of opportunities to engage. So Zoya was talking about having spaces at the table to contribute to decision-making processes. And that is a door that youth can walk into and participate in conversations, participate in the decision-making process if those that are already in the space have done a little bit of that readjusting of the thinking and the attitudes around the role of youth in society so that they're more receptive to the contributions that youth can make when they come to the table, right? So I think it's a parallel process. It's a reciprocal process. Young people have this creativity. They have a desire to contribute to the well-being of their communities and to work in civil society, in development. But then that desire needs to be paired with the spaces, creation of spaces to participate, and the rethinking of those that perhaps have more experience and more expertise in the space that see the value of the young people's contribution, and then young people also building on the contributions of those that have come before them and working shoulder to shoulder to create change. So I think that's a way that we can think about co-creation.
All right, thank you so much, Cecilia. What Cecilia is saying, probably in the law spaces corridors, they would say quid pro quo, where you gain, we gain. So civil society gains, young people gains, and everyone builds momentum for a better world, where development is not just something a word in a paper, but also just a process that keeps on giving. So thank you so much. And as young people right now, I'm inviting all of us to readjust our thinking and our attitude when it comes to outcomes that we want to see outside there. And this is going to be guided in the next session of co-creation, where we will ground our vision of youth employment and decent works with the realities of young people, as already echoed by the voices that we've had here today. So thank you so much, our keynote panelists. And I know Cecilia would love to stay with us, but she has to explore other opportunities, especially in her work, and just continue the day. But Cecilia, if you'd want to excuse yourself, we would understand. If also you would stay, I can buy you $1. But maybe if that's not a bribe, is it? All right, thank you so much. So we're going to go into a very interactive session. I know you're all probably asking, why is the room so youthful, and do we have any other, big person, high-level person joining us? Good news, bad news, they are not joining us. we are the ones who are going to guide these conversations ourselves, because we have a lot of employment strategies out there guided by high level and institutions. But then we want to understand, what do young people say? What is that roadmap like for you? What is that strategy that you want to see come to life as a young person? Which is why we kept these at this level of young people, and have you guys contributing to a framework that we can co-validate with frameworks that we have out there, if they're reflecting voices of young people. So the next session, we're going to be guided by Joshua. Okay, Joshua is the chairperson of the Commonwealth Youth Council. Joshua will be guiding us today on the topic of digital infrastructure. We will bring back Brian because of his vast expertise. He's spent this space for 4 years now. So when Cecilia was saying build on momentum of those who have gone before us, we need to build on momentum of Brian. So thank you so much, Brian. Brian will be taking us through the process of entrepreneurship, because that is where your space has been. And then we were to have Vicky Aridi, who's also one of the Generation Unlimited Global Leadership Council, but then Vicky excused herself and wanted to join us at 2, so I don't think that's possible. I'm inviting 2 volunteers, probably one online, in our online community, we can have one, and then to lead us on the aspect of education, and then we can have one on agriculture. It's vice versa. One in the room can guide us in the conversation for creation around education, and then agriculture, probably online. Let me see. Again, I just have $1 today, you guys. The economy is not economizing. Okay, so I'm going to use the power of chairperson vested in me by the Constitution of Kenya. I will appoint my colleague in Uganda to co-lead you will lead the co-creation space of agriculture. And then we will have any interest on the online space. Joseph, is that a reaction of yes, or a reaction of the conversation is great?
Yeah, hello everyone. It's a reaction of yes, actually. I'm so much interested in the conversation. Thank you so much for the beautiful ideas shared so far. I'm so glad I'm from South Sudan, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Joseph. You'd be helping us to guide the online community in the questions around agriculture, education. Yes, Diana is taking agriculture. So the questions on the online community will be pasted online by Maurice. Maurice is our partnership coordinator. So Maurice can access the questions from the shared document that we have, and then he will paste them in the chat group. And then for those of us here, our colleagues, they do have access to the questions that we're going to ask each other. So we can do the group of just 2 or 3, and then we can get back together in 15-20 minutes max. We'll get back together and hear reflections of what we're talking about when it comes to the question of how and what of unemployment and what frameworks we're going. So let's do that. Okay, so I should have probably said this. If you are Joshua, you can stand up so that people see who Joshua is. Joshua is right there. And then Diana is right there. Agriculture, digital infrastructure, and then entrepreneurship. Education is Joseph online. All right, thank you so much. Let's do that.
Sorry,
Are we seating?
in the room. Oh.
Yes. in the room.
I believe these chairs are rotatable. You can just rotate to each other.
So digital infrastructure here,
Yes.
and then the online people.
The online people can use the chat box, or
You do a breakout room.
Yeah.
all right, let's do the breakout room right first.
I think we could just so groups. Well, I don't.
We use the chat.
The
Let
chat
me try
box.
to log in. You
Yeah.
continue, but I'll log in. So continue.
It's just one. Yeah.
I don't know if we could break that room, but we could also turn down the volume so they can talk to each other.
Yeah, I think we can just mute the room and then, however you've organized the breakout.
Yeah.
So they can-
Because it's just one, so there's actually no need for a breakout room for them.
Yeah, so I think we can just mute the
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Maybe if you can react with emojis, if you can hear me. Okay,
Yes, we can.
amazing. Okay, so my name is Kapwani. I'm also part of the African United Nations Youth Delegate Program, and I can see the amazing inputs that we're already having here. So I just want to help spearhead the conversation here. Currently, there's different groups discussing questions here on ground, and I can see that we're already discussing about if I can just reread the question, which was basically on what specific mechanisms can be put in place for recognizing informal, non-formal, or prior learning, especially in rural and informal economy settings. We're talking about moving from the classroom to the current market space and workspace. So how can we leverage these vocational trainings, especially to help people who are not under any employment, education, or training? So I can see that there's so many comments in the chat, but feel free if any of you would like to raise your hands and also speak out about the matter. This is also going to be interesting. So I can already see some nice ideas. I can read some out of them, but if you'd like to raise a point, please feel free to raise your hand and we can let you also share your views on what can we do different currently when it comes to the curriculums, the classroom, the informal spaces, what we're learning, how do we move from these current curriculums that we have, what is needed to enable young people into the current workspace, the market space. So what needs to be done? Do we need more entrepreneurship? Do we need to get into agriculture? So what are some of the views that you have as individuals from all around the world? So this is something that we can really share some best practices and get to hear from one another. So if anyone would like to speak, please feel free. Okay. I can read a comment from Ibui Ochuku. I hope I pronounced your name right. She's from Kenya. Habari. She says that I believe that education is very powerful tool that can be used to unlock potential and create opportunities. So to reduce unemployment, which is absolutely right. She says education should go beyond just imparting theoretical skills and adapt market-driven skills into the curricula. And yeah, I think this is actually very valid. She's saying that the world is changing so fast, and therefore learners should be equipped with the requisite skills to match the changing world. For instance, AI is shaping every sector, and that's actually very interesting. Ochuku from Kenya, I cannot pronounce your first name because currently, even here at the UN, this is a conversation that is going on. How can AI be used to, do away with the issue of unemployment? And how can Africa and different regions also tap into that pool? And how can we regulate it as well? So this is very nice. In the contemporary world, how can we as young people start equipping ourselves with these skills to make it out in the AI spaces? I love this. I love this. And I think we have, let's see who else had contributed. I'm not able to see prior, but if anyone would like to share, Joseph, I can see you nodding and agreeing. And anyone else would like to share, please write it down in the chat if you have any questions, if you have any views pertaining to how we can solve the issue of unemployment, youth unemployment, especially we've heard one of them, which is on reforming education, the curriculum. So here's the question once again, in case you didn't see it, I have put it here for you in the chat. Yes, Joseph.
Yeah, I just wanted to use a verbal answer, like
Okay.
a speech. Yeah, here in South Sudan, recently the research was done, and many NGOs have been going to rural areas to train or to teach young people, especially the one in the cattle camps, about you know things to do with education, like the formal way of education, and then they came out with the general finance.
Joseph, you're breaking out. If you can hear us, just think it's breaking out.
solution of why these local people are not.
Hi, okay, Joseph was breaking out. If you, Joseph, you were breaking out. If you can maybe text or turn off your video so we can hear your contribution. So maybe your bandwidth might not be that strong. Yeah, maybe you can
All
try
right.
speaking now. Yes, much better.
Yeah, so I was saying that most of the people in the rural area need to be taught about practical skills. They need to be taught tangible practical skills that they can use in their day-to-day life. That one can give them the more easiest way to for example, tailoring. Every person can learn tailoring. You don't have to go to schools in order for you to learn how to do tailoring. Therefore, that one can reduce the rate of unemployment. And then also how to, because in South Sudan we have many cattle keepers, and many of them, they only know that cattle are for marriage. If we can be able to teach them the other benefits of having cattle, like for example milk, and also using them for farming, it can also be very, very good. It can boost their creativity, and it can boost the rate of unemployment in their lives. So these are some of the things that I strongly believe that if we are to take them to our rural communities, we see what they are doing, and then we come up with our creative abilities to see how they can benefit from what they are already doing. You see, for example, many of them they do fishing. See, so we now tell them that fishing is fine, but you can sell your fish. You can be exposed to the global market. See, so from there now we have taught them how to generate money. Therefore, we are reducing the rate of unemployment in their lives. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Joseph. It's really valuable. Nowadays, the other question we can ask ourselves is how can we make such jobs like fishing, rearing cattle look attractive to the younger generation? So basically what you're saying is that's what is feeding families. I mean, people are being parents are paying for children university fees, school fees, and these are children who you find that their parents are farmers, fishermen. But then in today's generation, when someone says you're a fisherman, they sort of try to put it as though it's not a valuable or attractive job. So you're absolutely right. How can we make these jobs be attractive? And it's through innovation, in my point of view. But I'd also like to see other views. And by the way, if you decide to speak, please tell us where you're from, what you're doing. There's so many people here would like to get to know what you're doing individually, your name, and that would be really nice. So before I read other comments, Karine Katenya, you're welcome. Tell us where you're from, what are you doing, and you can contribute as well. You're welcome. Is it Karen?
Maybe I can introduce myself because I did not introduce myself before.
Oh, okay, Joseph. Maybe you can do that in like some seconds. Go ahead.
All right. I'm a Young Peace Ambassador who's a member of the Universal Circle of Young Peace Ambassadors, and also I'm a national coordinator of Faith Impact Alliance, South Sudan. And then I'm also an aspirant of the Future African Leaders Foundations 2025. So that's me, Joseph, from South Sudan,
Amazing.
and I'm in Juba.
Oh, wow. Greetings to the people of Juba. Thank you so much, Joseph. Karen, are you able to unmute? You haven't unmute, so I don't know if you're speaking, but you're welcome. Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Karen. I'm from Kenya. I'm the founder of an organization called Lean on Women. We empower youth and women to lead transformative actions for health, environment, and social justice. I would like to share my views on the issues of education, especially for an African child. For me, I see a future whereby an African child needs to be competitive with other children across the globe. And for us to be competitive across the globe, we need to have some reforms in our curriculum. For example, by introducing like digital expanding the access to the internet across our villages, and also increase investment in education sector, especially in Kenya, like where I come from in the rural pastoralist communities. We have limited access to digital hubs. And for me, I see a future whereby we need to expose our children, our learners, our future generations to coding, robotics, AI, and data literacy, to encourage innovation hubs and science clubs in schools, and also partner with tech companies. Yes, for an African child to be competitive with other children in Asia, in Japan, and also in the US and across the globe. So for me, I see education, like we have to address the gaps that are there as well as we focus also on the future by partnering with tech companies, also increase investment, handle the issue of school feeding programs to ensure that children don't drop out of school. Because right now, when it talks about data, majority of children don't attend school in Africa. That's reality. And one of the major reasons is issues to do with lack of basics needs like food. So for us to be able to be competitive with other children across the globe, have to address the gaps that are there and also become more innovative. And yeah, change our curriculum, empower teachers, have a common language that is globally. For example, in Tanzania, people speak Swahili. Then we can advance to maybe speaking English, French, and also these global languages. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Karine Katenia. That was very valid. We need to be very innovative, especially technology, as you had mentioned, and the oneness. I think that's my favorite part of your address is that we need to be one. We're talking about regions. How can we bridge that gap? Like see the needs and assessments of what we actually do need, and then work towards that. So that's very a valid, very interesting. We can have Dida Mulira. Wow, very, very amazing hard names. I hope I pronounced your name right. You're welcome.
Thank you. It's actually pronounced Damulira, Daniela. Happy to be here. The UNAO Makere Chapter President, Disability Rights Advocate, Humanitarian Environmentalist. However, that's not why I'm here. I was actually very passionate about question 1, and that was basically on recognizing informal, non-formal, and prior learning, especially in rural and informal economies. And I really think that's something that needs to be talked about, especially since it's in a village setting whereby it's a bit more, it's harder to recognize their efforts and the sectors and the businesses that they do. So I was actually thinking one way that we could do this is that we could adopt competency-based micro-certification. This is basically like short stackable credentials that match real tasks, should I say, like skilling, but in a short stackable manner, whereby this can lead to higher qualifications. And this could be in areas like carpentry, agro-processing, digital freelancing, which is a bit harder considering the conditions of most villages and most rural settings. However, I really do think it would be doable. Secondly, we could also create recognition of prior learning fast tracks, whereby we can make like centers that combine a one skills audit of how, let me say, the practical exams and mentorship plans, that we can actually build what they have that's informal and slowly mold it into something more formal, in my opinion. And that's when one way that can, first of all, recognize the informal and the non-formal learning bases, and also somewhat integrate them into more formal outlines and more formal plans.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Damulira. I now pronounced your name right.
Yes.
It really is important to not leave people behind. So I really appreciate your point of view of the villages, informal sectors. How do we not leave them behind? So your ideas around that are really valid, and I feel like this is something that we need to address to our leaders, local governments. These are the people who can play this best, but also helping to inform them and also try to help them understand why it's important to do so. So just before I invite Beata, yes, I also have some comments here. Let me just read a few more. We had yes, we had from Lean. She's from Uganda. She says that recognizing informal, non-formal, or prior learning, particularly in rural and informal economy settings, requires establishing clear competency-based frameworks that define the skills, knowledge, and attitudes needed across key sectors such as agriculture, trade, handicrafts, and digital services. So she's basically putting the point on we need to have clear frameworks that are really intentional. And I can see the intentionality of this, not just we need to be intentional as to why we are having these informal spaces, and in order to be, if we're intentional, we can actually work towards improving them so they can actually look viable. Thank you for that, Lean. It's absolutely amazing. Beata, you're welcome. Please introduce yourself. And yes, you have 2 minutes.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Beata Namuri. I am from Tanzania, but also I work for Eshubi Africa, where we empower youth in terms of empowering them with skills, connecting them with opportunity, but also engaging them with partners and connecting them with opportunity that can help them be able to co-create and create sustainable economic growth. So for me, I wanted to talk on one area in terms of education. I think most of the time we fail to, we use education as thinking that maybe after school, after we'll be employed. But in real sense, I would love us now to change the perspective, our mindset in terms of education. Let's use education as a tool. Like I'm here to maybe gain skills, then from there, there's no employment, I have to create one. So the growth mindset, the mindset within us youth, but also in our, I would say in our communities, that should be impacted, and I think that maybe can support us very well. And that brings us to the curriculum curriculum change, I would say. I would give an example in Tanzania. We revised curriculum, I think, this year or last year, and I think we are starting implementing this year from primary 3. But if you look at it, yes, it's good content. There is entrepreneurship. There is a lot of things we are talking about here. But the real question is, do we have actual infrastructures to support that? So my call or my request would be, before even revising the curriculums, do we have what it takes? Let's put infrastructures in place to support the curriculum change, especially from the young age, but also let's empower the teachers. Now, for me, my part, I'm looking at from the primary level, not here where our mind is already grown and we are here buzzing around on what to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Beata. I think one thing I can take away from your intervention is that let's use education as a tool. I think it's very true because nowadays education is confused with schooling. You know, people feel like it's just about going to school, you get out of class, do the test exams, you can cram about it, pass your exams, and that's it. So if we look at it as a tool to help us get where we want to get, we become intentional again. So if you know you want to be a doctor, you can go in there with the heart of saying, I want to be good in sciences, focus on that, become a doctor. If you want to be an engineer, you say, I want to learn maybe matters on AI, or, you know, you want to be a pilot. So we become intentional when we look at it as a tool than rather as a process that we have to get through life, you know, that because you are born, then you have to go to school and then graduate. You know, the system has just continued and continued for many years, and now we need to become innovative. So thank you so much. Are there any people who would like to share? And if you'd like to share, you can raise your hand, you can turn on your camera. Would like to see your beautiful faces as you share your comments with us. But I can also read some from the group chat. We have Margaret, Clara, I don't know which country she's from. Margaret says that notably the governments of respective countries should introduce IT as a compulsory curriculum so that students can be able to use this advanced technology alongside AI. That is absolutely a great idea. So how can we, I feel like computer, those are some of the um, basics of the 21st century skills that we're talking about that everyone needs to learn about. And then we have one last comment over here. All right, I'm just being informed that we have 3 minutes left for our discussion. So if you would like to raise your hand, now is the time. We would like to hear what you're doing. This is a good time to connect and share your experiences so other people in here can also know what you're doing across the continent and also the world at large. Alex Masanja, he is also an AUNYD from Tanzania, a representative. He's saying that I think experience is the best teacher. So we can provide more internship opportunities to help young people learn by actually practicing. The educational system is more about passing exams, hence rather theoretical than practical. And employment can only be tackled by mentoring youth with more practical learning and practice. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. This is absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. It just picks up on what Beata had mentioned as well and what everybody else has been mentioning. How do we make it practical? So yes, you can learn about IT today, you can learn about AI, but if you're not using it and there's no hubs that are set up to help you um, do this, then your education just becomes a certificate. So how can we put that into use? Before I invite Amin, let me just read one more from Karine Katenya. She contributed again saying, government to increase funding for education sector. That is important. We cannot do it alone. Development sector is there to help, but the government needs to set aside a budget for that. Amin, you are welcome. You can introduce yourself, what you do, and also your intervention for 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, KP. So I don't know if someone else already might have mentioned it because I was struggling with my connection. But one of the things also to see when we come to education is also including intentionally including TVET, vocational education into the systems as well, because usually our assumptions and our views towards vocational education is pretty poor, and we usually um, you know, tend to think if people fail, that's what they go through, and that's not really the case. In most cases, TVET is one of the vocational education is one of the best ways we can also dominate as well. So I was thinking about that in educational curriculums as well. We should start to put, probably closer equal emphasis on this topic as well. I just wanted to quickly drop that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amin. She's also one of our members from Ethiopia. I hope Ethiopia is doing great. This is very interesting. Her points, it was mentioned, but very briefly, so it's good to hear it again. How can we make these vocational education training more attractive? We've seen, it was very impressive. Last year, we were able to see two individuals from Denmark they make both. And they were at the UN raising their voices as well. How many times do we see us individuals showcasing that side of young people from our countries, not just intellect, but also handy people who are actually making a living with their lives? So this is something that can be interesting to show this attraction: farming, fishing, whatever it is, welding. I recently came across a lady who had posted that her daughter just got accepted to study in the university for welding, and everyone was so surprised because they're like, this is not something that people would post and be excited about. You'd say, my daughter has got a job is studying law, and that's more exciting. So something like welding, and considering she's a woman, it was very surprising. The public had mixed emotions. So this was very interesting. Thank you so much, Amin. We have I don't know if this is a question from Mayping Chan. He says, I'm wondering about the need for educational curriculum to place equal emphasis on nurturing values and moral principles together with skills and capacities, and how this would shape the function and purpose of work and economic systems to create a more equitable and just society world. Anyone would like to address this point that Chang has raised? It's such a nice point. So he's wondering about how educational curriculum can also put emphasis on values. What can values and principles do? Can it help us when we are talking about bridging the gap between education and the workplace and the marketplace? If anyone would like to share your points of view on Chan's recommendation, you can just raise your hand. Okay, I think I can actually add to that. So yeah, Chris says difference being educated and being knowledgeable, especially in skill. Okay, okay. Oh yeah. So we can see a contribution there saying that there's a difference between being educated and being knowledgeable, especially in skills development. So Chan, I really appreciate your point of view. I once came across this statement that says the end of education is character. So you may have a degree and a very, very poor character, and you might be disregarded. So this is actually important. How do we instill values of patience, love, care, truth, nonviolence, right conduct? So this can really help even in the workplace. Most young people, you end up exploit, like you can have a job and then you don't do the right thing at the right time. I know we are basically complaining about the system, but what Chan is trying to say is let us look at ourselves within as well. So this is such a valid point. Let's not be quick to complain about, oh, there are no jobs, the government, my degree is not sufficient. But what is your character? What are you doing? When you get a job, do you slack at work? Do you go to work? What are you doing? So these are the values that we also need to have. I really love this. So you really need to see from within as well as individuals. Yeah, we need. So with that, I'm being told that we are about to wrap up this discussion. But thank you so much, everyone, for these valid and amazing aspects that we have all shared in here on how we can make sure that education is not merely just going to class, but is something tangible. Let it be a tool for the lives that we want to lead and the people we aspire to be and the solutions and that we want to solve for sustainable development. And let us also look within as well as individuals to reform our behaviors, our characters. And this starts by understanding who you are, what you want to do, that can hold you accountable and it can bring forth other opportunities as well. And thank you so much to everyone else who contributed. This was really, really amazing. I think still stay tuned. We're just done with the discussion and we'll let you know what's going on. So yeah.
Can one person confirm if you can hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can we have one of them talk so we can hear how loud they are?
All right.
Kapani, maybe if someone online could speak, just we can test the volume in the room. Can ask one of them to jump in.
Beata, would you like to?
Can one person say something so that we can just hear the voice?
Beata, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Hello,
Yes,
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, loud and clear.
All right, thank you so much. I know your conversations was co-moderated between Joseph and Kapwani, one of our representatives. I would just like to invite, I don't know who was your rapporteur for that online conversations, but Joseph, just for the courtesy of you volunteering to lead the conversation, I'd like to give you space or an opportunity to share the reflections. What are the conversations? What are you guys saying about recognition of prior learning? What are you guys saying about educational reforms that young people desire, and how can that framework come into fruition? Joseph?
In the call, you might ask Beata. I can see him.
All right, Joseph is not in the call. You know, they say as a leader, you can also lead from behind. You don't have to be in front. So maybe Joseph wasn't behind, behind it, and somehow it was left behind. But then can we have Kapwani just sharing in the reflections of what the conversations was like for you guys?
All right.
Can they hear me?
Do I need to use this one, or I can just speak like this?
You can just speak.
Okay, great. So there were so many amazing points of views. We were discussing the question as to, our main question was on what specific mechanisms can be put in place in order to bridge this unemployment gap, especially from education perspective, moving into the marketplace. And there were so many conversations around making sure the governments invest in education, but then also we had improving the skills of young people, taking it from a practical perspective. So it's not just about innovative learning. So you can't say that let's take a person who will study IT or AI, but then what do they do with it afterwards? So do you use it practically, or is it just a certificate? So this is some of the conversations that came about. But then also really trying to make the vocational training look attractive as well. So this is something that was discussed, that how can we encourage it? And this is through innovation, is what they saw. So basically, if it's fishing, how can you make fishing become a little bit more modern? So that is something that can attract more young people to actually engage in it. But then another highlight of this was also talking about looking within. So this was a comment that was raised saying that it's not just about us complaining about, oh, the government is not funding or change the curriculum, which is valid, and also that we need more vocational training. One of the participants had said that it's important for us to look within ourselves as well as young people, and it would be good to include values into the curriculum. You're talking truth, patience, nonviolence, right conduct, different type of values, because it starts with you. You may get a job, but can you sustain it as a young person? Are you late for work? Are you rude to your employees, your fellow colleagues? What's your work ethic? Are you consistent? Are you persistent? So this is something that was really raised that we also need to look within. There were so many amazing comments, and the group was very much engaged. And that's all for now.
All right, thank you so much. Can we give them just a round of applause? All right, thank you so much. I love especially the last part of looking within and learning those nitty-gritty details that we usually are left behind about persistence. Can you go through the job market? Are you confident in yourself? I feel like those values inclusion into the curriculum, it's about life skills, right? That would be really interesting to see that culture going on, because it's been something that was there in the past. So bringing that up again won't hurt. All right, so we're going to go to the next group of how to make money as young people using entrepreneurship. I would have, Brian share the reflection of the team, and then if we have anyone from this team, by the way, online, if you have anyone who wants to add something, you can always come in a little bit, after Brian or way later. So Brian, do you want
So
to?
in fact, we have a representative from the team that would be talking about what we did, but we had a very good group. They were very engaged. They gave a lot of great ideas. We'll include all the solutions and the problems we were able to identify. And finally, we put on the table everything. So thank you guys for being on the team, and hopefully we'll be able to give a great input on that.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, to start, my name is Ladu. I'm from South Sudan. I'm one of the AUNYD representatives. I was a delegate last year, but this year I'm not speaking as a delegate. But as a young person, I can represent voices of young people as well. So although not officially delegated to represent young people of South Sudan, I speak on behalf of myself and other young people. So I'm just going to give a summary of what we've been discussing. Entrepreneurship. We started to look at entrepreneurship from a level that every young person, like not every young person, but every human being is an entrepreneur at the baseline, because we believe entrepreneurship is solving problems, and we've all solved problems in one way or another. So what are the barriers to entrepreneurship? Our group came up with ideas such as lack of guidance, like entrepreneurs lack that guidance. They don't know what directions to go to when it comes to, like if I have an idea and I want funding, for example, I have an idea and I want like to develop that into a project. I lack that, direction. Where do I go? And then lack of motivation. Of course, this is self-explanatory. Like, for example, if I have an idea and I want to solve a problem as an entrepreneur, I lack that motivation simply because I feel not supported. And our main point of argument is that our schools, our society does not support entrepreneurship. It's looked at as something that's bizarre, as something that's not normal, because we are taught to become lawyers, we are taught to become doctors, we are taught to become teachers, and all these beautiful professions, which is not bad. We need them in society, but then our schools does not look at entrepreneurship as something that's normal. So this all culminates into all these problems. And then, of course, funding. Young people are not aware where to access funds when it comes to entrepreneurship. So we don't know where to go. For example, the government does not make it clear that if you have an idea and you want to solve this problem and you want to become an entrepreneur, come. We have a specific amount of money that is dedicated for you. And it happens also. Like, for example, funds could be there. For example, the United Nations could maybe have that fund, but do we all know about that? Do the young people down there in the grassroots know about that? So the next problem is network. Young people don't have access to platforms like this to be able to come and talk and meet other people whom they can be able to interact with and build like ideas and then become entrepreneurs. And then no access to traditional education. I think I explained that before, based on the education. And then informal education, background knowledge, and then 21st century skills. And speaking of background knowledge is where we don't learn to become an entrepreneur from early childhood. We are not taught to think as problem solvers. So our mindset is not of an entrepreneur, but rather of someone who wants to seek a job or maybe employment. And this brings us to the solutions. Like if we talk of lack of guidance, we need guidance, of course. We need clear like path. Our schools need to show us that the society needs to also be trained on how to, develop entrepreneurs such that they know which direction they want to go to. And then life skills. Oh, these doctors' handwriting is terrible. Yeah, and then education sector, basic skills. We need skills such as how to write projects or how to, for example, come up with a business plan. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to be able to do that. And then if you're trained on how to do that, like for example, on how to develop those skills, writing projects, writing business plans, even if the funds are not there, someone might just out of goodwill fund you because your project looks great and you know what you really want and you know the problem you want to solve and the impact it's going to have on the society. Right now, I'm just going to jump into the second question. Of course, I know my group is going to support me on all the other things that I'm leaving out for right now. So we talked of taxes, how taxes affect entrepreneurships, just to simply put it. So one of the things that we talked of is that in some countries, they have policies that do not support young entrepreneurs. For example, high taxes. I can give an example of Kenya. It's written here that 30% is put as a tax amount for like startups entrepreneurship. Like imagine I'm just a small business getting started and you're taxing me. This takes away all the capital that is supposed to be reinvested into the business, which can lead to, of course, you all know, failure and the business will collapse. And then one of the things that we could do to solve this is to implement policies that like maybe set zones separately for startups to not like put them into places where they are supposed to pay like a lot of taxes. So like set special zones, if I can call it that way, for them where they are not supposed to be asked to pay, like, or maybe reduce taxes instead of 30%, say 10% or 5%, just to let them develop their business and be able to thrive as entrepreneurship. So I'm just gonna stop here and I'm gonna invite members of my group to chime in and add whatever they think is left out. And it's been amazing. We can't talk about entrepreneurship today. We can't exhaust everything, but the summary is that everyone is an entrepreneur and we have to think as problem solvers and we'll change the world. Thank you.
All right, we have to think as problem solvers to change the world. Thank you so much. And also make money. Economy in me speaks. Let's have any addition from the entrepreneurship team. If we do not have any addition, satisfied? Yes.
Perfect.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I would invite the team of two. You know, you can never go wrong with two people in a team. Yes, so I'm going to invite Diana to share what they discussed as a team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mukanzania Adana, and I'm a representative from Uganda under the AUNYD program. So it seems most of us are not interested in agriculture. But as she said, a team of two, you can never go wrong with it. So however, I've been discussing about the social protection needed for youth in agriculture, but also how can we make it attractive for the youth and how the government and private sector can support inclusion and scaling. So the top priority that we can see for youth to benefit in agriculture is the use of advanced technology. We can never go wrong with advanced technology and everything concerning AI. We can use AI in the supply chain. We can use AI to detect the climate, to see whether the seasons are good for planting or is it for harvesting, things like that. So we looked at how we can involve youth in decision-making processes for policies concerning agriculture. Because we see in Africa, agriculture is one of those top priorities because they contribute a lot to our GDPs. So we can never go wrong with agriculture. However, we find that most policies do not favor people in agriculture. So is it possible for our governments to involve youth in these decision-making processes? And also, can the government invest in more agricultural startups? Because we can see that in countries like Kenya and Rwanda, they are so good at agriculture in that they are also content creators in agriculture. And nowadays youth love everything concerning content creation. So is there any way that government can create all these synergies between themselves and also the corporations in agriculture to involve youth in content creation, but also do digital marketing for them? Because there's some you'll find they'll go to the different farms, take photos of whatever they have at the farm and sell online. So they're just more of middlemen between the consumer and the farmer. So those are some of the ways that we have looked at. But also, I think when we go back to our curriculum, educational curriculum, I think that we can involve agriculture in it. And I love the fact that some schools have adopted to it, where they're having urban gardens in schools. And also in that, they are trying to do it at community basis. I've seen it in Uganda, and it has really worked. That people are getting to be interested in the whole urban gardening, because you do not need a lot of land to do the whole agriculture thing. You just need a small portion of land. In that, we also have a way of, planting on our verandas or small verandas on the apartments, it is just enough space for you to do something connected to agriculture, but also earn a living out of it. So something else, we think that there is need to create synergies with countries that have potential markets, because we find that markets is one of those challenges that we have as countries that do a lot of agriculture. You will plant your things and have nowhere to, sell them. So we want to create more synergies between countries, but also through corporations, because you'll find that we have small farmers who are doing farming on a small scale, that you do not have enough produce to do exports. So is there a way we can create more corporations and do the whole export thing? So that was us. That was what we discussed, the two of us. Thank you so much.
I don't know about everyone, but for a team of two, that is very comprehensive. All right, so thank you so much. I want to give a chance again to everyone online. Wow, I promise I will keep time, and our time here is 4 minutes, and we have a team on digital infrastructure we'll have to share. So online people, I will always come back to you on email, or if digital infrastructure team would be generous to share their time, but I would love to yield back to them to share that.
Yes, I can quickly share for digital infrastructure so we can go back to online. We talked about a variety of things. The first thing we talked about was preparing youth for the workplace. So we focused both on during education and then starting in the workplace. While people are being educated, we talked about how schools should prepare them with a baseline of knowledge. Obviously, that's what education is there for, but also making sure that they are adaptable. It's really hard to predict how a workplace or the field in general is going to change. And so just preparing youth to be able to adapt to whatever changes may come. And then we talked about, as youth enter the workforce, having partnerships between these youth that are just starting and the people who have been there longer, and ensuring that both are working and learning from each other. This isn't just a give and take, but they can learn from each other, because youth are really educated on topics such as the digital field and are also not as attached to the status quo. So they may be more likely to come up with innovative ideas. And then we shifted to talk about laws and practices that can protect youth as well as others in the digital field. So we first talked about how these laws are difficult to write because the AI and digital field is constantly evolving, and laws may be too restrictive, or they quickly become obsolete as things change. And so we talked about how education is a big part of it as well, just ensuring that people are educated about AI and they know the risks and the different impacts. So that includes environmental impacts of AI, that includes making sure that AI has less biases, making sure that AI's data is sourced ethically. We also wanted to make sure that it is possible to legislate that, not just educate people on that. And then finally, we transitioned to talking about partnerships and what partnerships can be enacted to support youth as well as others in this digital sphere. We talked briefly about public and private partnerships to ensure that data and the digital sphere is secure and safe for youth to be on, that data isn't being taken out where it shouldn't be. And then we also talked about how youth should be in all spaces, decision-making spaces and the UN spaces, not only in spheres such as AI and digital, where we might have an advantage because we've grown up with it, but also just that we are the future and the present and have a lot to say on the different topics. So that's a very quick summary of everything we talked about, but I want to turn it back as well to online.
All right, thank you so much. A round of applause. All right, so I'll bring it back online just for a minute or two, exactly a minute or two. If you want to share your reflections throughout the conversation, what have you had? What are you already doing that is, already communicated in this space? And we can call Kapwani in to wrap up with closing remarks and just appreciation from our side. All right, going once.
Beata, would you like to share?
Okay, your 2 minutes are
Hello.
over. All right.
No, it's not much.
Yes, Martin.
Yes, good afternoon or evening from this side. Or Lara from Uganda. Greetings to everyone there. I'm so grateful for being here and thanks for the great remarks that we have had on. This has been a very crucial conversation. It's really important to, as I have spoken of, as we might and it really contributes a lot to our GDP. And through such a program, positions, I just one I've not been part of it, but trust me, it's something that we really love the youth to really come on board and really follow to this because
Hi, Martin. Hello, Martin. I can feel your good insights all the way from here where I'm seated, but then your microphone is not doing your incredible insights any justice. So do you mind to try different space, or you can just use the chat box for us to have that comment? But we appreciate you volunteering to give those invites. And now at this point, just allow me to invite Kapwani to give the closing remarks and just for everyone who was, sacrificed their time to be here with us today. Thank you so much. That was my time, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Okay, I'm kind of surprised that I'm doing it, but okay. Well, first and foremost, it's very lovely to have everyone here. Thank you so much for coming. I know today's roads were very hectic. We were like, are we going to have anyone join us? The roads were blocked for like some time. And yeah, just apologies on our end for starting a little bit late, but it was because of that. And we're just glad that you guys had made it with us. And also big thank you to Bahai for the venue. We really appreciate it. This has been an amazing space. I bet in your individual groups and conversations, you're able to be inspired that the change starts with us, and then we can also be much more innovative into trying to bridge the gap between the classroom and the marketplace. But it also starts with things like this, meeting from different continents, different countries, and we have different expertise and backgrounds. So how can we merge that and see that as an opportunity to tap into? And because where the world is going currently, partnerships is everything. So this is something that this program has also helped us to achieve. And to the participants online, it was amazing chatting with you guys. I really wanted to continue speaking to them. It was really exciting. You guys should have been there, but I bet your individual groups were also exciting. So yeah, just thank you so much. And we will share with you just like the outcomes of all this so that we can also have them with us from these different group discussions. So if you have them written down, it would be nice to share with Linda over there so we can also continue to have this with us. Let us be agents of change. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.